Morning, Judge.
Good morning.
How are you
I don't know if
today?
Rachel told you, I'm on the side of the road in rural Armstrong County. I've had a blowout,
Gotcha. Okay, no, I didn't know that.
but while I'm sitting here, I might as well do this hearing if we can. I don't know. Is it going to be contested as far as you know?
Yes, sir. It has been up to this point. I think there was a decision Judge was on, Baker was going to leave up to you on this, on how we proceeded.
Oh, okay. Uh, so we've got, it looks like Jeff Hill represents the mom and Vince represents the dad,
Correct, Your Honor.
and the dad's in prison.
Yes, sir. And I believe Mom, as of yesterday, Mom was actually incarcerated in Potter County also.
Well, that should make them easy to find. Rachel, do we know? Do we have mom from the jail?
No, Judge, I wasn't aware we needed to have her brought in.
Well, I don't know that
Judge,
we probably will if we're going to have a hearing. Will they make them available by Zoom? Oh, there's Jeff.
morning, Judge. We don't need her, Judge. She filed or she signed a relinquishment.
Okay, okay. Jeff, I'm stuck beside the road out in the country. I had a blowout, so but I'm just sitting here, so I might as well conduct a hearing if we need one.
Well, my condolences. I've been in your shoes before. It's not fun.
Well, I had a blowout last week, and so I no longer have a spare because my spare's on that one, and Discount Tire had to order tires, and they haven't come in yet. So wouldn't you know, I've got another flat now.
Yeah. Well, yuck.
And then when I tried to get the tire off, of course, the Chevy place had got the nuts down so tight I had to use a 10-foot cheater bar to finally break them loose.
Oh, you're kidding.
So I'm sure I'm looking at that again on this one.
What kind of tires did you order that they didn't have?
They're really aggressive mud tires. You know, I live off of 6 miles of dirt road, and so when it rains out here, it's really slippery. And so I decided I'm going to get some really aggressive mud tires, but they had to special order them.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope the wait's worth it. That's yeah.
I may have to buy a new pickup just to get home.
Yeah.
I can't get a hold of Tad Fowler and Sonia Letson are my neighbors, but they never answer their phones. When I got stuck, I tried calling both of them, and neither one of them will pick up. So I said, one of these days I'm going to have a heart attack, and I'm just going to die because they won't answer their phone.
Judge, I'm not sure I would even know how to change a tire anymore. I'm not sure where the jack is in my car. I got old and soft.
Well, luckily my granddad owned a chain of tire stores when I was a kid. So from the time I was 11 till I went to law school, I worked at a tire store. So I know a little bit about it. But
Gosh.
if you can't get the dang you're SOL.
Yeah. My dad owned a tire store too when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, he did in Bellevue, Nebraska.
That's good work. I learned a lot working there.
Yeah.
Hey, Vince, does your guy need to be brought back in?
Yes, ma'am. I just didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, he needs to be brought in, please. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Biggest thing I learned out of it, Judge, was I stay in school.
You're exactly right. I think that's why my granddad made me work there.
It's good, honest work. It is.
Did you guys fix tractor tires and truck tires and everything?
Not tractor tires, but truck tires. Yeah, it was mostly passenger and light truck, but yeah, he did truck tires too, the split rims and all that kind of fun stuff.
Oh, I had one of those blow up on me, luckily inside the cage, and it knocked me out.
Boy, those will take your head off.
Yeah. Well, my granddad's partner in the tire store had a fake nose because one of those came off and took his nose off.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He's lucky to be alive.
Yeah, he is.
I
That
don't
tow
know.
trucks.
Do they even have those split anymore? I don't know if they outlawed them or.
Boy, yeah, you got me. I don't know.
What, split rims?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of the older ones do. I don't think they use them much anymore, but some of the older trucks I think still do use split rims.
Wow. Sit there and pound on one of those with a duckbill hammer trying to break the deal and then getting a crowbar and trying to get that dang ring off of there. I don't know. It might be better than doing this though.
We got an older guy back home that travels around and fixes tractor tires, and he goes out in the field and he'll break down a tire by hand out in the field and fix it out there and put it back on. And he's told me many a times, he's like, these young guys, they can't work with me. They'll come for one day and they don't even show up the second day. He goes, they can't work. Like, not many people want to do that work anymore.
Well, what is it? I can't remember. I never did that kind of field work. We had a guy for us that did it too. But is it ether they would spray on there and then light
Either
it?
to blow it up and seal the bead on.
Yeah.
Blow it up. You're right on that. Do you ever see one of those things like blow up?
Yep.
No, I've never seen that.
They will send you running.
The guy we had, his name was Joe, and he always wore long sleeve Carhartt with long handle underwear, even in the middle of July, because he said that he would sweat and then it would evaporate, and that would keep him cool. I thought that just looks miserable, but that's how he did it.
Some of those old timers subscribe to that. I could never quite get there though.
No, me either. Too swampy.
Yeah.
Jeff, is your gal still in jail?
Yes, sir. She's in Potter County.
Okay. Are you representing her on her criminal stuff?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Well, I think we have everyone.
Okay, good. Well, let me call then, and we're here on a final, and the court's been made aware that Mom filed voluntary relinquishment, and so is the department.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
And is the father ready?
Judge Vince Nowak for Danny Tidwell. Mr. Tidwell is incarcerated, but he's participating by phone. And I know that at least the folks familiar with this case will know I'm fixing to sound like the broken record that I always am. He's fixing to get out in a couple months. Dismissal date is not until the end of the year, December 28th, 2024. That would at least give him some time to demonstrate participation with the family plan. So I will once again urge my motion to continue. I know the motion to extend was granted a while ago, and I know that gives us up to 6 months. Doesn't guarantee 6 months. It gives us up to 6 months. So I guess technically right now I'm asking this be continued.
Tell me, Vince, is our drop dead date December of this year?
I believe, and Daniel, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 12/28 of 24.
Well, 12/27, I think is the actual date, but yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, Vince, I know, there's not much somebody can do when they're incarcerated, but I know they have that workbook. Sometimes they'll send people. Has he had an opportunity to at least start on that?
He has, and Judge, in fact, I filed a notice of self-study, I think is what I called it, and he's done, and if it's okay for him to chime in, he can tell you better than I can what he has done in prison. But I know I filed a notice of self-study. It was well over 100 podcasts and other stuff, but Mr. Tidwell's on the phone. If the court would allow it, I'd like him to tell you what he's done and what he plans on doing if a continuance is granted.
Okay. It's let's see. Is Stacy on? Stacy, you're our ad litem.
Yes, Your Honor. Stacy Zavala for Liam. And I know Vince hasn't presented all of his motion yet, but I do have response to that when appropriate.
Okay. And do we have a CASA worker on this case too?
No CASA on this case, Your Honor.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the continuance and giving Dad some opportunity to work some services. I know, just looking at the file, it looked like Judge Baker had a concern regarding the charges that Dad was currently serving for, and wondered if there might be some restriction on even contact, with any child, including his own biological children. And I don't know if that question's ever actually been answered to her satisfaction.
It probably hasn't been, but I know a couple things, Judge. There is no specific statute that prohibits a sex offender from getting custody of his own child. And it's essentially up to the discretion of a judge to consider the potential risk the child would face if returned to a registered sex offender. So it kind of throws the ball back in y'all's court.
Sure, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. And I know that sometimes we have bond restrictions or we have probation restrictions, but yeah, I'm not aware of anything after somebody's discharged their sentence, unless they're, unless we have one of those quasi-criminal hearings where somebody determined to be a dangerous. I can't remember what the wording is, but.
Sure. And obviously, Judge, I'm not even in a position to make an argument today that the child should be returned to Mr. Tidwell because he's not out yet. He hadn't worked services the way we normally work service. He's done some in prison. He'll talk about that in a little bit. I guess all I'm asking for is an opportunity for him to prove whatever he possibly can prove, given the time we have left in this case.
Just so I know, Stacy, generally, what's going to be your position about the court allowing the father an opportunity to do that?
Your Honor, we did have argument about the extension previously. If I am recalling correctly, I thought that Judge Baker had extended based only on mom's participation in rehab, and I believe stated on the record that that's why she was doing that. Mom has now relinquished. This is a situation where I think, and I know that Mr. Trout has arguments as well, that I think that father's charges would, be reason for termination alone. And then he's never met the child. The child has now been in care over a year. He is mostly nonverbal, requires a lot of speech therapy, a lot of interaction. He's been in the same home since a year ago. He's working hard on all of those things and making incredible progress. And so it's my position that just in line with the previous decision, that a continuance should not be granted at this time, and we should proceed in order to give him some permanency.
There's no two ways about it. That was the reason Judge Baker granted the extension. However, we're kind of like beneficiaries of that extension anyway. And since we've got until the end of the year, I don't see the harm in letting my guy either, prove himself or fail once he's out.
The child's currently in foster care.
Yes, he is placed with a family that is adoption motivated if that becomes available. And he's been there for right at a year now.
And remind me how old Liam is.
He is, excuse me, 4. He
Yeah.
just turned 4.
Okay.
Yeah, just turned 4 about a month ago.
Okay.
And dad has never even met him.
And Your Honor, on that note, what Mr. Vala stated, as Mr. Nowak verified, that was the reasoning for the extension was Mr. Hill's client. And at this time, Mr. Hill's client is also incarcerated. She was at the last hearing. She did go in and complete drug rehab at, I believe it was Senecor. She did a 30-day there. Then she went to jail in Randall County and then got transferred to Potter County. She's still being held. She's been in county jail for about a month or so now. I know she has pending out-of-county charges and a pending charge in Potter County. So, mom has not been able to follow up on any of her stuff either, due to that incarceration, which is a fault of her own for not being able to complete services. She's also filed a relinquishment, which was filed with the court. So as far as going forward today, we would urge the court to go ahead and proceed today, due to the fact to get Liam some permanency and to allow him the opportunity to be adopted by the family that has had him.
Well, let's go ahead then and have our hearing, and I may decide at the end of it that it's a better course to continue it and let Dad have some services. But I'd like to hear all the evidence. So the department may call its first witness.
And Judge, just so I'm clear, we're proceeding on a final hearing today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I call Emily Braden. And how are you familiar with that case?
I'm the investigator who was assigned to the case.
How did the department become involved in this case?
I was called out to assist law enforcement. They were in the process of evicting the mother from a hotel room. And there were concerns for the conditions of the environment as well as substance use with the child present.
Okay. And were you able to meet with the mother?
Yes, I was.
Did you meet with the mother at the hotel?
Yes, I did.
And did you address the concerns with her?
Yes, I did.
During that initial contact, did mother make any admittances to you?
She admitted to the methamphetamine pack that was found in the room belonging to her. She reported using methamphetamine the night before, and she reported using a few times a week in the room with Liam present in the room while she was in the bathroom.
And at the time, was Ms. Long the primary caretaker of Liam?
She was.
And he was living in that hotel room with her?
That's correct.
Did mom mention to you who father was?
Yes, she identified Danny Tidwell Jr. as the father.
And did she tell you where he was at the time?
She reported him being incarcerated.
Did she state where or why he was incarcerated?
She claimed that he was a sex offender and that he had never had any relationship with Liam.
Okay. Did she state how she knew him? Were they married? Were they together? Did she state at the time?
I don't recall.
Your Honor, I would ask to admit let me find them real quick. Exhibit number 1, which is a certified copy of the indictment for Danny Joe Tidwell. He's charged with a child. That is exhibit number 1 is the indictment.
No objection.
Stacy,
No
any
objection.
Okay,
objection.
very good. I'll admit number 1.
I'd ask to go ahead and admit exhibit number 2, which is the written plea admonishments from Mr. Tidwell's plea.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
I'll admit number 2.
Exhibit number 3, which is the supplemental admonishments to defendant offender registry requirements.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
I'll admit number 3.
And then exhibit number 4, which is the judgment of conviction by the court, certified copy showing that Mr. Tidwell was sentenced to 12 years in TDCJ.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
And I will admit number 4.
And again, Judge, that's the judgment for the child conviction. Ms. Braden, what steps did the department go through to try to prevent the removal?
We assess family members as potential supports. And so we spoke with maternal aunt, and she was willing to be placement, but she worked a night job and wouldn't be able to provide care. We talked to several other family members who may be able to help, but ultimately told me that they weren't able to help care for the child. And so we decided to go ahead and move forward with a home study on the family and place the child in foster care. We attempted to locate the dad as well and determine that he was in TDCJ.
Okay. And you'd stated earlier that mom said that he had never met. Did she state at the time whether his rights and everything were intact?
She told me that he didn't have any rights to Liam.
Okay. But his rights have never been terminated at that time.
That's correct.
Was mom arrested that night, or was she released from the scene?
She was arrested.
She was arrested. So at the time, the child couldn't go home with mother.
That's correct.
And we had no family member.
That's correct.
Do you believe, based upon those facts, that dad was incarcerated and mom was arrested that evening, that there was no other place to place the child. It was in the best interest of the child to remove.
That's correct.
And where was the child placed?
The child was placed in a foster home in Canadian originally.
Okay. And when by the time your involvement in this case was over with, was child doing well?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Nowak?
Thank you, Judge. And just briefly, Emily, would you agree with me that Danny Tidwell did nothing that necessitated the removal of the child on the day the department removed the child?
I disagree.
Why?
Because I think his choices that led to his incarceration made him unavailable to care for the child the day of the removal.
Fair enough. But on that day when you removed the child, he wasn't in the motel room doing meth, correct?
That's correct.
He wasn't in the motel room abusing the child, correct?
That's correct.
Pass the witness, Judge. Thank you. Thank you, Emily.
Ms. Zavala?
Emily, at the time that this case started, Liam was 3, correct?
That's correct.
At that time, was he essentially completely nonverbal?
Yes, he was developmentally delayed in several ways.
Your involvement in the case stopped after the investigative phase, correct?
That's correct.
So you wouldn't be able to answer any questions about the improvements that Liam has seen since he's been in care.
That's correct.
I pass the witness.
Mr. Hill?
No questions, Judge.
Daniel, any follow-up?
No follow-up with Ms. Braden, Your Honor.
All right, you may call your next witness.
I call Rachel Penn. You were the caseworker on this case for a while.
Yes,
Now, currently, you are no longer working for St. Francis. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay, and that just happened recently?
Yes,
Okay. But up to just a couple of weeks ago, you were still the caseworker.
yes,
During your time on the case, were you able to meet with mother?
yes, sometimes.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
Sometimes some months it was hard to get a hold of her. And she would not answer the door sometimes when I was at the apartment she was living in.
Okay. When y'all first receive a case, what is the first steps that you go through with the parents?
We create a family plan for them and have them sign their family plan and file it with the court.
Okay. Are those family plans, after they're filed with the court, are they eventually made in the order of the court?
Yes,
Was that done in this case?
yes,
Your Honor, I would ask to admit exhibits number 6 and exhibits number 7. They are certified copies of the family plans of service that Ms. Peoples just discussed.
No objection.
No objection?
No objection.
The court will admit number 6 and number 7.
And Your Honor, just to clarify, exhibit number 6 is the family plan for Rachel Long or Rochelle Long, and exhibit number 7 is the family plan for Danny Joe Tidwell.
Very good, thank you.
Ms. Peoples, during the course of this case, did mom complete her services?
no.
Did she work any of her services?
She started but did not finish any of her services.
Here recently, mom did go to rehab. Is that correct?
Yes,
And at the time that you went off of the case, she was incarcerated.
correct.
Do you know what all what her charges were? Do you know what she was incarcerated for?
Yes.
And what was that?
She had a possession charge out of Gray County, and I believe is some unauthorized use of a vehicle out of Potter, maybe.
Did mom talk to you about her charges?
She did. When I met with her in rehab, she finally told me about them.
Okay. What did she tell you about them?
She told me that she wanted to make it to the last court hearing, and then after that court hearing, she wanted to turn herself in because she knew she was going to have to serve. She thought she was going to have to serve about 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Did she state whether those were offers on her case, or that's just what she was thinking?
She had talked to her probation officer, I believe, about that.
Okay, all right. So mom, when you were still on the case, did mom sign a affidavit of voluntary relinquishment?
Yes.
Was that relinquishment signed by mom?
Yes.
Did she go over the relinquishment?
Yes.
Were there two witnesses to it?
Yes.
Was it signed and notarized?
Yes.
Was it filed with the court?
Yes.
Did the department sign a consent to being the designated conservator of the child?
Yes.
And was that filed with the court on July 15th of 2024?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 9, which is a certified copy of the mother's affidavit of voluntary relinquishment.
No objection.
No objection?
No objection.
That exhibit is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Peoples, during the course of the case, did Danny Joe Tidwell work any services?
No.
Are you aware of anything that he did while he was in jail?
I am not.
Okay. Did he ever turn over any completed certificates of any services to you?
No.
What was what type of services would he have had to work, or was he required to work?
On our normal family plans, we put parenting, counseling, drug screens. That's kind of the main ones.
Okay. While he is incarcerated, did you ever have any contact with him?
I did.
Okay. Were you able to mail out any packets for family plans?
I did mail his family plan to him.
Okay. Are there any packets or any parenting stuff that y'all can mail to them while they're in prison?
Yes, we can mail them a parenting packet.
Okay. And was that sent to them?
I believe it was.
Okay. Did you ever receive anything back on that?
No.
When you did talk to him, did you have a phone conversation with him?
I did have a phone conversation with him.
Okay. And did he state that he had worked on a parenting packet or he had done any services?
Not at that time, no.
Has he ever had any contact with the child?
No.
No visit. Due to his incarceration, he's had no visitations.
Correct.
At this time, is he able to provide for the child?
No.
Is he able to provide for a home for the child?
No.
Is he able to provide any basic needs for the child?
No.
And we've been in this case for longer than 6 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And he's not able to do any visitations with the child or to meet the child based upon his own actions.
Correct.
I'll pass the witness at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Nowak?
Thank you, Judge. Rachel, it's good to see you. And I'm not sure where life has taken you, but best of luck on your new endeavors. Going to miss working with you. You've had one phone conversation with Mr. Tidwell. Is that accurate?
I think I had 2.
Okay. During both those phone conversations, wouldn't it be accurate to say that Mr. Tidwell was willing to work services?
He expressed, I believe he expressed, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Let me ask it a different way. Did he ever say, heck no, I'm not going to complete any services?
I don't think he did.
Okay. Were you still the St. Francis caseworker back in March of this year, 2024?
Yes.
Did you, in that capacity, did you have a chance to review? I filed something that I called Father's Notice of Self-Study. Have you had a chance to look at that pleading?
I looked over it, glanced.
And if you'll recall from looking over it, there were several hundred podcast from Focus on the Family and Focus on Parenting that Mr. Tidwell reported as self-study while incarcerated, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and I'm going to state a few obvious things. He was ordered by the state of Texas to complete family services, correct?
Yes.
Okay. He was also incarcerated by that same state of Texas, correct?
Correct.
And there's very, very little that an incarcerated person can do while in prison in Texas with regard to their family plan of services, correct?
Correct.
And whether or not you think it's fair that he's in prison or not, would you agree with that it's unfair to require him to do something that he simply cannot do?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Rachel, thank you for that. And pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Peoples, in your capacity as the permanency specialist, did you visit Liam regularly?
I did.
What kind of progress did you see him make?
He made so much progress throughout the months that I was able to go out and see him. His speech drastically improved from the first time I went to my final visit with him. He was forming sentences, and I was able to understand him, and it was very difficult to understand him at the beginning. So the foster parents really worked with him in the home and taking him to as much therapy as they were able to take him to, and just doing a lot of really good work with him.
Did they work with him on sign language?
Yes. He was he was using a ton of sign language at the beginning.
Did they work with them with like a visual schedule so that they could always communicate what was going to happen next and what his day was going to look like?
Yes, they were very, very organized, very to the T on making sure he got those words in for the day.
And have they worked with specialists, I believe at WT for some speech?
Yes, the WT clinic here in Amarillo.
Okay, and they've worked with other speech therapists, including like specialized speech camps during the summer?
Yes, he went to speech camp this summer in June, and he also, they were taking him to the clinic in Happy for speech as well.
And are they already having to work with the school in preparation for him starting pre-K?
Yes, he'll be starting in the fall.
Okay, so they're working with the school because he might need some special equipment. They're talking about kind of a I don't quite understand it, but some special equipment to help him communicate.
Yes.
Is it safe to say that although Liam has made lots of progress, that he's going to need a lot of assistance through the schools as he progresses?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, and even though school hasn't started yet, his foster family is already in communication with them and working with them.
Yes, they have been for the several months now.
Okay. With the nature of Mr. Tidwell's charges, is he going to be able to go to school?
No.
Objection, Judge. I believe this calls for a legal conclusion, frankly.
Sustain.
If Mr. Tidwell is not allowed to be around any children, do you anticipate that might cause some hardships in getting the therapies that he needs?
Yes.
I pass witness.
Mr. Hill?
No questions.
All right, any follow-up, Daniel?
Yes, sir. I have a few questions, Your Honor.
Go right ahead.
Ms. Peoples, Mr. Nowak asked you a question a while ago regarding whether you thought it was fair that he not be asked to work services that he's not able to. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
Isn't it true that he is incarcerated based upon decisions he made
Yes.
and crimes he committed?
Yes.
And based upon those decisions he made on his own accord, has provided him or has made it to where he is not able to be a member of society right now.
Correct.
He's not able to work those services based upon decisions he made.
Yes.
And due to the evidence that was put in, he is going to be required to register as a sex offender. And even up to this point, still is incarcerated and cannot take care of the child.
Correct.
Do you believe that it is fair to the child to keep them waiting?
No.
For a parent who, by their own actions, is incarcerated at this time?
No, that's not fair.
You just testified Liam's doing great and the foster family is working well with him.
Yes.
Are they adoption motivated?
Yes.
Would they like to adopt Liam if it became available?
Yes.
If he became available for adoption?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Nowak, any follow-up?
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Peoples, when you spoke with Ms. Long about the relinquishment, did she tell you why she wanted to execute that relinquishment?
Yes. She told me that she knew that the foster parents could give Liam a better life than she could. It was a very emotional conversation that we both had, but she knew how well that they had done with him and all the services that they're able to take him to. And she just knew that they would end up giving him a better life than she could.
And she was able to witness some of their interaction when they would come and pick him up from visits, correct?
Yes, yes.
What did she say that Liam would do when they would walk in?
She said that he would light up and he would run to his foster dad. And he was just, Rochelle said that she could see the love that foster dad had for Liam and vice versa.
And he's been in their home right at a year now.
Yes.
So a fourth of his life.
Yes.
I pass the witness.
Trail?
No questions.
Any follow-up, Daniel?
No follow-ups at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, very well. The department may call its next witness.
Call Erin Sessions, Your Honor. And Ms. Sessions, how are you employed?
I am a supervisor for St. Francis Ministries, and I have been the supervisor on Liam's case since removal.
Is the department today asking for termination of the parental rights of the mother, Rochelle Long, is to Liam based upon the affidavit of voluntary relinquishment?
Yes, we are.
And do you believe that that is in the best interest of the child?
Yes, I do.
And are you asking for termination of the parental rights of the father, Danny Joe Tidwell, as to based upon Section L, which is the conviction for assault of a child,
Yes, we are.
and based upon failure to work services?
Yes.
And do you believe that's in the best interest of the child?
Yes, I do.
And Ms. Peoples testified a while ago that Liam is doing great. Is that your understanding also?
Liam is doing fantastic. Leaps and bounds from when he came into care.
And do you believe it's in the best interest of the child to allow him the opportunity to be adopted?
Yes, I do.
And the family that has him now is adoption motivated?
Yes, they are.
And do you believe it's in the best interest of that child to remain in that home?
Yes, I do.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Can we just take a 2-minute break? Somebody's pulled up here and offering to help me with my flat tire, and I want to tell them I thank you, but that I need to conclude this hearing. So just give me 2 minutes and I'll take care of that and I'll be right back.
Make sure it's not a hijacking, Judge. Be careful.
It's Tad, so I don't think he's gonna hijack me.
Tell Tad I said hello, please.
I will.
Thanks.
Hold on. All right, I'll be right back.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Aaron.
How you been?
Good to see you. I think I just have one question for you, Aaron. I think you testified when Daniel was asking you questions that one of the reasons that your supporting to terminate Mr. Tidwell's rights is his failure to work services, correct?
That is correct.
And you'd agree with me that it's virtually impossible for anyone incarcerated in the state of Texas to work services, correct?
I would agree. However, we did
I
send,
thank Aaron. Got it. Pass the witness, Judge. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
you bet.
Paula? Stacy?
I'm sorry. I have no questions, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Jeff?
No questions.
All right, very good. Any follow-up, Mr. Trout?
Oh, one other thing, Your Honor, or a couple of things. Ms. Sessions, do you believe, also it'd be in the best interest of Liam terminate dad's rights, based upon constructive abandonment?
Yes,
Child's been in care for over 6 months.
correct.
The department has made reasonable efforts to try to work reunification.
Yes,
And the parents at this time have demonstrated an inability to provide a safe environment for the child.
that is correct.
And dad hasn't been able to visit the kid based upon his own decisions
Correct.
and incarceration for crimes he committed.
Correct.
Based upon those three reasons, you believe it is in the best interest to terminate the dad's rights
Yes, I do.
and to allow Liam to continue to thrive in where he is and to possibly be adopted.
Yes.
I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
Aaron, this is Judge Board. Do you know, just off the top of your head, were any of the father's relatives investigated as possible placement?
Yes, sir. They were.
Do you know who all was looked at?
His mother, that's the name that he provided us, was his mother. He also provided us with the name of his fiance. That situation was a little strange, but we did speak to both of those people.
With respect to his mother, did she indicate an unwillingness to take the child?
She did not, however, not exactly. She was provided the information. She never returned with the necessary information. She never returned calls with the necessary information. She didn't follow up on anything. And also, Mr. Tidwell is supposed to be paroling to her home.
Okay. All right. I understand that then. Anybody have any follow-up based on what I asked?
No, sir.
No follow-up, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. The department may call its next witness.
Department would rest at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Very good. Mr. Nowak, you may call your first witness.
May it please the court, called Danny Tidwell.
All right. Very good. And we're handicapped a little bit here, Danny. We don't video of you, but we can hear you just fine. So, Mr. Nowak, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. And Danny, just make sure you keep your voice high or loud so we can hear you. And this is your final trial over Liam. You understand that, correct, Danny?
Yes, sir.
Now, the department ordered you to complete services, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell the judge what you've been able to do while you've been incarcerated with respect to services.
I have completed the SOTP or Sex Offender Treatment Program, 9-month program in TDC. And whenever I was released on parole, I attended therapy class once a week, every week, for almost 3 years. And I had a steady job. I still have the job the moment I'm released. I was currently in parenting class and was about 2 weeks from graduation when I was physically assaulted by another inmate, which put me unable to finish the class because I've been on a perpetual chain or being moved from unit to unit now that I'm so close to discharge. I have a tablet that I listen to a whole bunch of parenting podcasts every day. And I do have another 5-year-old son, which I will be going back to the house to whenever I discharge in 2 months. That is with Audrey Capers, my fiance.
Okay. So upon your release, with respect to your plan of service, assuming the court allows you to continue to work it, what are your intentions?
Well, the day I get out, I will be going to my job to make sure I can start the next day. Then I would be going to work. I already have a place of residency. We have money saved for me a vehicle. We're working on getting my driver's license and stuff like that so I can make it back and forth to work. I plan on continuing therapy because that's what the service plan. Also, they wanted me to do family services with Liam, which I'm sure I'd have to do that in Amarillo. And I just want my kids to be able to know their brother and to be able to prove that I'm a good father.
What is the job that you have waiting on you?
I do forklift. Well, it's a warehouse right across from it's the performance team in Fort Worth, right across from the Amazon warehouse. I unload 18-wheelers by hand, by forklift, and I had a Class A CDL license, so I also do the yard dog, which I plan on getting my CDL back so I can go to Amazon making $25 to $35 an hour. I also have a T-shirt company that is on Google right now.
What's the name of your T-shirt company?
It's called the Dirty Minded T-shirt Company in Fort Worth.
When you are released, I'm guessing you plan on staying in the Fort Worth area?
Well, first I have to go to, I'll be switching between my mom and my fiance's house because currently she has one of her friends living in the house, so it'd be kind of crowded.
Okay. And Danny, you sent me a list of you hand wrote out and mailed me a letter that had a list of your self-study. Is that, have you, and that was back in March. Have you continued with self-study since March, Danny?
Yes, sir, every day.
Okay.
Well, every day they put a new parenting podcast on there.
Would it be the same, like focus on the family, focus on parenting?
Yes, sir.
Danny, this is your trial. Is there anything else you'd like Judge Board to know?
I just would like at least a chance to work services. Like, I mean, my case has nothing to do with any harm that I've ever done to any of my kids. And I'd just like to do what I can to be a father.
Thank you, Danny. Judge, I'll pass the witness.
I was muted. Daniel, you're with us.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Mr. Tidwell, you stated you'd done sex offender treatment program. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did that before the CPS case, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that was part of your from your conviction for this assault of a child, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And you stated you had done that, was that before parole?
Yes, sir. It's a requirement for any sex offender to be released on parole to do either a 4-month, a 9-month, or a 18-month sex offender treatment program.
Okay. If you were on parole, why are you back in jail?
My fiance, during the pandemic, my fiance had to deal with her kids, and I was not allowed to be around kids at the time because I was on parole. So she was not able to pick me up to take me to the parole office that we had scheduled for me a parole visit. And so they issued a warrant for my arrest, and I turned myself in.
Okay.
And they revoked me.
You didn't have any other way to get to the parole office?
No, sir. My mom worked at the time, and as you know what I'm saying, during the pandemic, everything was locked down, so it was kind of...
So are you...
And I was currently employed at that time.
As far as your employment, are you, you said you have a job and you have these plans. Is any of that guaranteed?
Yes, sir.
Which part?
The job and the plans. Plus, I have my T-shirt company that I do have over 5,000 T-shirt designs that I'm working on.
Okay.
I have not been idle sitting in prison.
Yeah, and about that, what did you say the name of your T-shirt company was?
It's called the Dirty Minded T-shirt Company.
Is that do you think that's a very good name for a company based upon what you're in jail for?
Objection. It's just not relevant, Judge.
Overruled.
I do have another company that I'm starting, the Sons of God T-shirt company also.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
But again, my question, do you think that's a very good name for a T-shirt company based upon your history and what you're in jail for?
I mean, I want to prove that I'm not.
Objection, non-responsive, Your Honor.
Yeah, if you go ahead and question, Danny.
Sorry.
Yes or no, Mr. Tidwell?
Oh, I guess no.
Okay. Now you said you were paroled, you were revoked off of parole strictly for missing one visit.
Correct.
That was the only thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They changed my parole officers. My original parole officers never even knew that my file had been transferred to some person that I never even knew except for that first week.
What does transferring a file have to do with you missing a parole
Well,
visit?
he wanted to talk to me personally. Like every time you get a new parole officer, the new parole officer wants you to come in and talk to them and do drug tests.
Okay.
And I have done drug tests in prison. That's one of the other services
Yes.
I can say I provided.
Were you denied parole in November of 23?
Yeah, after I came back, yes, they don't allow you to make parole twice.
Do you know why you were denied parole?
A bunch of reasons.
Okay. Do you know those reasons?
Not off the top of my hand, but I was released on my first parole whenever they first granted me parole.
Understand. I'm not talking about the first parole. I'm talking about the one that you were denied.
They never give you parole twice unless you catch a new charge.
Were you denied you said you did know, but you can't remember. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Like it says, like I messed up the first time I was on parole, and I think a danger to society or something like that.
Okay.
I mean,
do you recall if one was your criminal history?
probably, but I only have one felony as an adult, so I don't.
You just said you only have one felony as an adult. Do you have a long misdemeanor?
I have traffic tickets.
Okay. Did you have a drug and alcohol problem?
I would say no. My dad drank himself to death, so.
Does drug and alcohol involvement, does that sound like one of the reasons you were denied?
That had to do with, I think, my charge. There was drugs involved in the charge when I was 26.
Okay. Does institutional adjustment sound like one of the reasons?
I have no idea. I've been a G2 S3 since I came in the system, so, which is not getting any cases.
And does adjustment during periods of supervision, does that sound like one of the reasons to you?
I'm not sure. That might be the parole thing.
Okay. You stated that since March, you have been listening to podcasts and working on
Before March.
Do what?
Before March. The moment I started getting the tablet, I started doing business, real estate, money, credit, parenting, just basically everything that you can learn.
Okay. Did you ever check to see if any of the podcasts were approved as part of your service plans?
I was not able to find that out.
Okay.
Like I've been limited what I'm able to like right now I have no way to send a letter out, and I haven't been able to send a letter out or anything for months.
And you understand that all of this is based upon crime you committed.
Correct.
Objection. Objection to all of this. Thank you.
I'll pass the witness, Sharon.
Ms. Zavala?
Okay, Mr. Tidwell, I want to make sure I've got the timeline correctly. So back in 2011, you were sentenced to 12 years, correct?
I took a plea bargain for 12 years, yes.
And I'm so sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing and I'm having a lot of trouble. Can you speak up for me?
Sorry. I took a plea bargain for 12 years.
Okay, and then you were released on parole.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Liam is 4. So I am assuming he was conceived during the time you were released.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, so you said that you were revoked because you were unable to get a ride because your girlfriend had kids?
Yes, ma'am. My fiance was not able to come pick me up.
Okay, so there was no other form of transportation you could take at that point?
Well, it was lockdown.
Okay, so,
Like during the pandemic where they locked everything down, only essential workers only.
okay, and so there was no bus that you could take?
It does not, it doesn't go that way in the time allotted. How would you say? By the time I would have got to the parole office would have been closed.
Okay.
It was a very
So
bad situation.
where did you have to report?
About on the other side of the city. Like I lived on one side and is the other side.
Okay, and this was in Amarillo?
No, ma'am. It was in Fort Worth, Tarrant County.
Okay, and the phones weren't working, so you couldn't communicate with your parole officer that information?
I was on the on the phone with the parole officer all the way up until he issued a warrant for my arrest, and I told him I would be headed to the police department to turn myself in, and I did indeed turn myself in.
Okay, so you weren't able to get to a really, really important meeting because you couldn't be around anybody with kids, right?
Correct.
Okay,
During
so
parole.
is it correct that Liam will need to get to lots of places?
Yes, but since I'm not on parole, I can be around children now. That is not a stipulation of my discharge.
So you will be able to go up to Liam's school?
Yes, ma'am. As long as I contact the school and let them know that I have a child in the school. By state law, they changed it.
So you realize that you will be, if Liam was in your care, you would be responsible for getting him wherever he needed to go.
Once I get out, I will be responsible for my 5-year-old son, which is 1 year older than Liam, as soon as I get out. Plus, I have a 17-year-old son that I'm in the process of getting him out of state custody in Oklahoma.
So have you ever seen Liam?
Due to Rochelle not allowing me to see him, probably because she was on methamphetamines, no, ma'am. And I can testify that the moment I found out that Liam was mine, I did write a letter to the court telling them my concerns, that she was most likely doing methamphetamines, and that they needed to send y'all out there to go check on Liam. Now, I never heard anything back from it, but I did write a letter the day I got my fraternity test.
And you were already back incarcerated at that point?
Correct.
So how is it that you would know that Rochelle was using meth if you were not there?
Because I know her. That's the reason why me and her ended up breaking up, because she was homeless, and I tried to give her a place to stay to get sober, and she came to my house. She pretended to be sober. We ended up in a relationship. while I was working, she started stealing my property and giving it to, I guess, some person for methamphetamines. I found a meth pipe and some meth inside my house while I was on parole, so I kicked her out of my house. And then I found out she was pregnant and had a kid while I was incarcerated.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Judge, you muted, but I think you're calling me. Is that right? But no questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Mr. Nowak?
No further questions of Mr. Tidwell, Judge.
All right, very good. You may call then bench your next witness.
Judge, before I rest, I don't have another witness, but before I rest, I would like the court to take judicial notice of my March 25th, 2024 filing of father's notice of self-study.
The court will take judicial notice of that document.
And I don't know if I do this before I rest or after, but I'm going to re-urge my continuance. So with all that in mind, Judge, I rest.
Okay, very good. Ms. Zavala, do you have any witnesses you'd like to call?
I do not, Your Honor. I rest.
As that item, the court would be interested in your recommendation as to the best interest of this child.
Yes, Your Honor. I do believe it's in the best interest of Liam for his mother's rights to be terminated based on the relinquishment that she executed. I also believe that it's in Liam's best interest for his father's rights to be terminated. At this point, his charges alone would be enough for termination. He's never met the child. He's never interacted with the child in any way. The child's been in care for over a year. He is not out yet, has no way to take care of the child. And I do not believe that attempting to reunify with father at this time would be in Liam's best interest, and I do recommend termination.
Jeff, do you have any witnesses you'd like to call?
No, sir. I'll rest.
Okay. Well, then let counsel make closing arguments, and Mr. Trout, I'll allow you to go first.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I believe it is in Liam's best interest to terminate the parental rights and allow him some permanency with a family who has been taking care of him due to the absence of the parents. Mom has relinquished, dad is still incarcerated and has been for quite a bit of his life, has never met him. His foster family, who is adoption motivated and willing to adopt, have taken care of his needs, have worked with him, and have become his family. It is in his best interest to stay in that atmosphere where he is thriving. As to a continuance at this time, Your Honor, I could be wrong, but I believe that since we have convened the final hearing, I don't know that we can do a continuance unless it's to recess for up to 90 days, but within the 90 days, I believe it has to be a decision made at that time. But dad is not out of jail. He is not going to be, I believe it's until September. By that time, we're going to be close to the 90-day mark. Dad has not worked his services. He has, due to his incarceration and inability to visit with the child or even meet the child, he's effectively constructive abandonment on the child at this time. He has no way to care for the child right now. And it is all around in Liam's best interest to stay where he is and to allow adoption to go forward and to terminate the parental rights of both the parents based upon, as I said, the relinquishment, the L grounds, which is the conviction for a sexual assault, the failure to work services, and the constructive abandonment, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Hill, do you have any closing you'd like to give?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Nowak.
Thank you so much, Judge. And you know, these types of cases are a little bit more difficult. I know that the folks assembled here are sick of hearing me say this. But the state takes the child from Mr. Tidwell. The state requires Mr. Tidwell to work services to get the child back or have a shot at getting the child back. and then the state denies Mr. Tidwell any opportunity, any meaningful opportunity to work services. I think that's patently unfair. I think it would be in the child's best interest to know his real dad and to give real dad a shot at completing services once he's out. Our dismissal date is, our drop dead is December 27th of 2024. Dad will have 3 months to either, prove what he needs to prove to the state or fail. I don't think that is too much to be asking for at this point. So I would urge the court, and again, I'd urge the court to continue the case. Short of that, I would urge the court to deny the state's request to terminate rights of Mr. Tidwell. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. The court does have the recommendation of Ms. Zavala. Stacy, did you want to give any additional argument?
Your Honor, only to add, Mr. Nowak talked about the state did this, the state did this, the state did this. Everything that is happening today is a natural consequence of Mr. Tidwell's voluntary actions. And I'd just like to add that.
Thank you. Well, based on all of that, I will deny Mr. Nowak's request for further continuance. This is a difficult situation, and it's always a difficult situation when we're talking about parental rights. And I don't care what the parent's circumstances are. It's a difficult decision for the court. I do want to commend Mr. Tidwell on the things that he has done, and I really feel like those are going to be things that are going to benefit him when he gets out, and particularly with his relationship with his other two sons. And so I don't feel like that's been done in vain, and I think that was impressive. And I agree with Mr. Nowak. It's a little bit difficult, even though it's his own actions that led him to be there, but it is difficult to blame someone too much if they just flat don't have the opportunity to complete the services. And so I think Mr. Tidwell's efforts need to be recognized, and I appreciate the fact that he's done that on his own with some good advice from a good lawyer. I think in this case, given Liam's special circumstances with regard to his developmental delays and that kind of thing, it really would be harmful to Liam to continue to string this out. We don't have any, assurances that any of that would work. We know he's in a really good place where he's thriving. He's getting the specialized treatment that he requires and is going to require for some time. And I just feel like if I disrupt that, I'm going to be creating a lot more problems for Liam on down his life. So I do find it is in the child's best interest to terminate the mother's rights. She has executed a voluntary relinquishment. I take judicial notice of that, and will terminate the parent-child relationship between mother and Liam. I also find that it is in Liam's best interest to terminate parental rights of his father, and I will do so based on the charge that Mr. Tidwell is currently serving, as well as constructive abandonment. And I will sign an order to that effect. And at this point, Daniel, does that discharge the department, or does the department continue as the temporary managing conservator?
Department would be named permanent managing conservator, Your Honor.
Okay, and then I will name then the department permanent managing conservator, and I hope that the foster parents are able to complete that adoption. That sounds like a great ending to this case, and hopefully that'll happen on down the line. Daniel, if you'll do an order for me and send it to Rachel, I will sign it.
Yeah, so we'll get an order. And Judge, just to be clear, it's the L grounds based upon his conviction, and N grounds for constructive abandonment. Are we not doing O grounds for failed work services?
Yeah, I'm not gonna find that, because I don't think it's fair to charge him with that when he's done some things on his own. I want to recognize that.
Yes, sir. And Your Honor, usually Ms. Zavala, when we stays in the cases, the judges usually orders that. Usually other court-appointed attorneys are dismissed once the hearing and all of that.
Very-
Or once the final order. Is that going to be the same ruling today?
Yes, I'll go ahead and discharge Mr. Nowak and Mr. Hill. I would like Stacy to continue while this case proceeds.
Yes, sir. And I believe there's usually judge makes an announcement as far as ruling in open court and timelines for appeal processes.
Oh, for submitting their statements?
Yes,
How
sir.
long- How long does Judge Baker usually give on that?
Well, it's once the final order is signed, timelines have started running as far as de novo. There's I think the 3-day requirement on the filing for de novo. And then once the final order is signed, there's a 30-day, I believe it's 30-day timeline to file an appeal.
Filing
I think that's right. Yes.
Okay, I will announce on the record that the parties will have 30 days after the signing of the order to appeal this case. And anything additional?
Judge,
And also, I'm sorry, Your Honor, also for the finding to terminate, it's under, also have to find for the best interest of the child in order to do that.
I'm sorry, you cut out there, Daniel.
Sorry,
for a minute.
on a termination outside of the grounds under 161.001B1, there's also the ground of 161.000B1. Excuse me, let me back up. 161.001B2, which is the best interest of the child.
Okay, and I believe I have announced that. I didn't reference that statute, but I do find that the court's termination of both the mother and the father are in the child's best interest.
Thank you, Judge.
And you had something?
yeah, just while Danny's within earshot, Danny, although I've been discharged as your attorney, I will call you likely Thursday or Friday, and we'll discuss your future options. Thank you, Judge.
Vince, I appreciate you doing that. All right, thank you guys for your patience. I apologize for my geographic location, but it all worked out fine, and I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me, and I will sign that order as soon as I get it.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you,
And-
Judge.
Hey,
Thank you.
Okay, Rachel, I think we can terminate this hearing. Oh,
oh,
Rachel.
yes.
Let's see.
The next hearing date, Judge, would be on September 5th on the 9 o'clock docket.
Okay. All right, thanks, y'all.
Hey, Jody, I will,
Thank you, Judge.
I think I'll put you on the email for the exhibits. I will get those emailed over to you.
I got them. I think Rachel sent them to me.
Okay, all right, good deal. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Hi, Jody. I didn't even know you were on here. I didn't notice.
I've been here the whole